Maybe I'll give a little bit more of my background.
Yeah, go for
Okay.
it. So where are you going?
Well, right now I'm in grad school, studying physical therapy. And like what you were saying about we don't know much about, anything. Science is like I don't know how it translates, but like it's supposed to be like, it's just like the art of knowing, or like learning more and stuff. And so like I have anatomy right now. Next semester I'll have anatomy too. And we learned about like the extremities and stuff, and like next time we're gonna learn about the head and like, the rest of the body. And we're like on Fridays we get to go in to Cadaver Lab. We each get our own. We're in groups and we have our own body.
Oh, jeez.
And we get
You'll be
to
done
like
with dead bodies.
we like it's a whole body, and nothing's been touched on it before. Like nobody's dissected it yet, so you have to go in and you bring your scalpel.
Jeez.
And you just cut it open, and you go to town, and you're
Go to town.
like, there's a little manual, and it's like, okay, here's the manual, here's what you do. I'm not going to tell you anything else. Just, if you have a question, flag me over. And so like my professor, Dr. Smith, his big thing is comparative anatomy. He loves looking at how he loves monkeys. He gets these monkeys from the Pittsburgh Zoo, because we're like an hour down the road from Pittsburgh. So he'll get these dead monkeys from Pittsburgh Zoo, and he dissects them in the basement of the PT building. And he likes to draw these comparisons between how the monkeys and how the humans are. And I tried telling Uncle Bill about this, and he's like, well, evolutionary, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, okay, it's not about evolution. Okay, I guess it is. But like at the same time, like, why is a monkey different than a human? It's because of how they had to evolve. It's not like we're not trying to say, we all came from the same thing. Okay, maybe we're trying to say that, but like, why does a monkey crawl around on, all fours and a human walks around on two legs? And so he looks at those differences in the anatomy and helps him understand the human anatomy better and the monkey anatomy, and so he likes to bring up those things. So anyway, we're cutting open these bodies, and like our body is like this older woman, and like the next table over is like, this older man. They're generally older bodies, because that's who dies. That's who donates their bodies. Anyway.
And if you fail, they sign like an F on the grandma's tit and send her down the chute.
No,
That's like a comedian's joke.
They end up like because we cut up these bodies, but we're not professionals, so like they end up what's the word? They end up burning the bodies and like sending the ashes back to the So but anyway, so we're cutting up the bodies, and like it's so weird to think like you see how the arteries are different on this body compared to this body, and like like the split between how your one artery splits higher on the arm on this body compared to the other body. And you learn these things in lecture, and you learn how it's supposed to be one way, and then you go dissect the body and it's completely different. And it's like with science, you just have to keep learning stuff, and you constantly realize you just don't know anything.
Yeah.
Which is like when we're learning and we're studying and everything, and we take these exams and we're like, wow, like, no, I got an 80%. That's good, because like I know most of it, like, but like you're just constantly learning, because you like our professors tell us, like, you ask a question and they're like, well, it depends, because it's different with anyone.
Yeah.
Any concept is different with, and
I mean, I could mention like something that reminds me of is I read not Leonardo DiCaprio, Leonardo da Vinci's biography a while back, which is really interesting. I think you would really enjoy it. But one of the things he did was he did a lot of things, but he dissected cadavers. Like really, like I think before it was, or back when it wasn't really something that it was widespread, I guess. And he did anatomical drawings, some of the greatest anatomical drawings that like some beautiful ones. This was Leonardo da Vinci. I have to remind myself, not DiCaprio. This isn't the Titanic. And basically, yeah, like he drew some of the probably the most well detailed anatomical drawings ever. And he had done it so much, so obsessively, because I mean, this is a dude who wanted to know what the back of a woodpecker's tongue looked like. He had it on his like list of to-do list, his things to do. Like, he was just such a weird character, but he did so much of that. And then it's said that all the research he did would have put us, I think, 500 years ahead in the understanding of the human body in medicine. I forget who said that, but like I think scholars have like agreed upon that or something, and it's like, damn, like, but the reason why he didn't publish it was he was shit at publishing. He never finished the damn painting. He kept each painting, even the ones that were commissioned, like, here, I want to pay you to paint this. He never even gave it back to them. He, like, the Mona Lisa was a commission to like paint some woman somewhere, some random woman somewhere.
So you didn't finish the Mona Lisa?
No, he never did. But the one the one we see is just his most recent rendition. That's the thing. He was such a perfectionist. He was never done. He's kind
of like you.
Yeah. Well, I've learned to be able to complete things. Like I've convinced myself, you have to finish this. This is your deadline. I feel like I've gotten over that, but I am a bit of a perfectionist, because I think you want to be a bit further on the perfectionist spectrum than to be somebody who doesn't care about his own work, But yeah, you do want to know how to complete things, which is hard to do, and it can be even hardest at the end when you're like convincing yourself to finish and let it go, and you have to force yourself. But yeah, that's another thing. But yeah, like he just did, like he kept working at it, and then one of the reasons why the Mona Lisa smile is so iconic is because and he did like there was some scan done, I think, with X-rays, and it was said that like there was like 1,000 or so layers or more layers of just of retouches of the smile. And the thing is, he studied so many cadavers and the face muscles and muscles in the human body that he was able to understand how to do it in such a way where it's like she seems like she's smiling or smirking, but you can't tell. He just was so meticulous about that. But that's just the thing. Like that's a beauty of when you mix science and art. They're not meant to be separate. They're supposed to be put together and loved together, But that was just the thing. And then the other thing was the monkey. The difference between humans and monkeys. Here's one definition. Monkeys don't know how to sacrifice. You want to know how to trap a monkey? This is a Jordan Peterson thing. You take a jar with a hole that about that big, just big enough for a monkey to stick his hand in. You fill it with a bunch of rocks at the bottom so that you can't lift it. Then you put a bunch of candy in there. You put it out somewhere where the monkey is, and where the monkey will come along and find it. You let him come find it. He comes and finds it, sticks his hand in there, tries to get the candy out, and then pulls it up. He can't get his hand out unless he lets go of the candy. But a monkey doesn't think like human beings. He doesn't know how to sacrifice. He doesn't know how to let go of that candy to save himself. So he'll keep holding on, and then you just come over and scoop on up, But that's one of the differences between monkeys and humans. And that's interesting, because it's like, then you can say, yeah, that's Adam and Eve learning how to sacrifice, or learning our vulnerability. So that, I don't know, that's just one of the interesting things about that story that I just think is so fascinating. But yeah, no. Back to like you were saying with cutting up cadavers and whatnot. What's that like? And yeah.
At first I thought I was gonna be kind of freaked out by it. I was a little nervous to go in and do it, but once you're working on the body, especially if you cover up the face, you don't really. It's not like you don't think of them as human beings.
Yeah.
Like you kind of think of the anatomy more than you think of this was a human being who died. Still respectfully, you're trying to figure things out, find different muscles, find different arteries. You're getting a spatial awareness of it to see how everything's connected, because you study it in the book, and like I have this program on my computer where it's like a 3D human body, and I can take things away and put things in, but like it's completely different when you get to the human body, because you look in and you're like, oh my gosh, like the gluteus maximus is huge. Like I didn't realize how big that is. Like, and that's like the butt muscle, you know, it's covering the whole thing. And then you pull that back, you resect it, and you have all these muscles underneath, and you start like learning how those work together, and like how some people have like so the piriformis muscle is supposed to be sitting on top of the sciatic nerve, and sometimes people will, like, that muscle can compress that nerve. So then some people will get pain in like their butt, basically. They'll get like, you know, pain from their sciatic nerve getting compressed by that piriformis muscle. But some people, they have their piriformis muscle actually goes right through that nerve. So imagine if that muscle becomes inflamed, that's just trapping that nerve, and that. So like a lot of people, so you look at the bodies and you're like, okay, you know, while that muscle is you know, around that nerve. So maybe they had a lot of sciatic pain. So you're coming up with these theories and these hypotheses in your head, and you're like thinking about like how they used to live their life. Like, you know, our body, like we're like, oh, you know, she on her left side, you know, or her right side, she's missing like, or her muscles look really atrophied. These certain, you know, external rotator muscles. So maybe she couldn't lift up her or bring her hip out that far, so she wasn't able to. Maybe this affected the way she walked. You know. Because on her right side, you know, it's smaller, it's more atrophied, so it's weaker. Maybe she wasn't able to walk as well on her right side. So you're just coming up with these hypotheses, and you don't get to see if they're right, but you're thinking about it clinically, and it's.
You create a fake Facebook. It's like, hey, you reach out to our family. You're like, was this true?
Yeah. When we started, our professor was like, yeah, don't look them up. Like, you're gonna want to look them up, but like, just don't look them up, because because I mean, at the end of the day, like, they're human beings. So like, because they have the body bags and everything. So you can look them up. But like, he was like, don't look them up, because then you're gonna like get freaked out when you're dissecting them. It's just, you know, word of caution.
Yeah, it's like, you don't want to. Like, you just, like, it sounds weird to say, but you don't want to humanize them too much, because that makes it harder for you to do your job.
Yeah.
Like, a doctor doesn't want to perform on his own kid, because that's a...
Yeah. And you get these bodies for, like, 2 semesters, so you're just, you know, you're working on them in the first semester, you're cutting up their arms and legs, and then, not cutting them up, but, like, you know, dissecting them. And then you get to the, you know, the...
Wait, the same body?
You get the same body because they keep the bodies the whole year.
Well, how do they like freeze them?
Yeah, well, like, no, they don't freeze them, but like, they use preservatives, different, like, we spray them before we go home for winter break. Anyway,
Jesus, grandma's like a steak.
Like, well, it's wild, like, because some, like, if you don't use the preservative spray, like, some of them you see like the skin starts to. Anyway,
oh goodness.
But we have the same body, so like. He was like, also don't look them up, because like, you know, we're gonna start to think about how they might have died. So like, some of them, you look at them and they're like, you know, you look, you don't want to know. Yeah, so like you're feeling along their arteries, and like, I've learned like the difference between an artery and a nerve is an artery is kind of squishy, because, you know, it's like a tube, you know, and a nerve isn't supposed to, like, a nerve is gonna be more solid, and you know, you're feeling along the tube, and you're like, oh, this is kind of hard. So maybe they got an occlusion, maybe they had like, you know, they had you know, heart disease or something going on. See, and then like, you'll look at their you're like, maybe they had diabetes, and, you know, you just start coming up with these hypotheses. And then I think one of our like unofficial projects is going to be like figuring out how they died. But
that's interesting though. Like, so you basically, you know, I mean, that's a great piece of experience, because then when you go to work, because you're a PT, you go to work with, you know, people in the future who are still alive.
Yeah.
Then you can you know, draw on this experience and know from actually going inside a dead person, like, what those muscles are, and seeing them.
That's and we have so much time, like, working with them every week, and we can go in on our own time to like look at stuff, but and we get, you know, we have these practicals where we have to go in, and he'll be like, what's this on this, like, different people, like, you look at everybody's bodies, so like, you're not just looking at your own body, you can walk around the room and look at the other bodies, and when we have our practical exams, they'll mark different parts of the bodies, and they'll be like, okay, what's this, what's the insertion of this muscle, you know, different thing, and so you're applying and all. And so like, one of the great things about my program, Slippery Rock, is you at the end of the time, or at the end of your time in school, like you're going to be able to apply all that knowledge, and you feel more confident about that. And like not every school has a cadaver lab, and some do, but like they only get a couple bodies where like the graduate assistants will, you know, dissect them, and then they'll show you, you know, like the different things, but like you don't get to actually do it. Like once you get your hands in there and you're doing that hands-on experience, like that really helps.
Yeah.
Because you really don't learn just by watching and hearing something. You have to like actually do it and experience it.
Like subscribe to the YouTube channel where they cut open grandma. No. But yeah, no, that's so. Yeah, no, that's. But does I think you were talking about, were you going to transfer to like, was it Pittsburgh University?
So when I was applying for grad school, I got accepted in a couple programs, and I was trying to determine which one I wanted to go to, and University of Pittsburgh was one of the programs I got accepted to. So I was debating whether or not I wanted to go to University of Pittsburgh versus Slippery Rock, and money-wise and program-wise, Slippery Rock seemed like the better decision, and I'm glad I stuck with it because I'm really enjoying it, and I think I'm benefiting a lot, especially because, you know, with the current situation with the pandemic, it's difficult learning, because most of the time you're at home, you're watching on your computer and everything, but like we still get to go in to the cadaver lab and do that, and we still get to do, you know, like the assessment skills and everything.
But does Pittsburgh have it?
I don't know. I didn't really.
So you're getting something out of Slippery Rock that, you know, you may or may not have gotten out of there. So that's good.
Yeah.